Was Ilhan Omar married to her brother? Oh, let's talk about it. Hi, thanks for watching. Today's Friday, Fact Check Friday, and I've got a really fun, interesting, controversial story for you today. Now, those of you that are unfamiliar with my channel, I do fact checks on Friday where I look at a story and I will fact check it myself. I will fact check other fact checkers, and I think it's a really valuable series. You can check out the whole playlist of what I've done. So far, I'm 100%. I've never been wrong. Now, I'm wrong a lot of times, but in my fact check videos, so far, I've been right on the money every time. I am the world's greatest fact checker, and I do have this fancy microphone, which makes me an expert. So just so you know, that's what's happening. Today we're going to talk about the story with Ilhan Omar and whether or not she was married to her brother previously. Now, I've been really reluctant to tackle topics like this, and the reason is because my channel is very small and I don't need it hidden any more than it is already. But since I've had no growth pretty much over the past 9 months, I figured what would happen if I just made the video anyway and, see what happens. So for the record, this is definitely a shot of espresso, not Maker's Mark. And let's just get into this story about Ilhan Omar. So here we are. This is the dailymail.com. This story came out yesterday. Ilhan Omar did marry her brother and said she would do what she had to do to get him papers to keep him in the U.S., reveals Somali community leader. Let's take a look at the bullet points of this story. Ilhan Omar told friends years ago that the man who went on to become her second husband was in fact her brother. DailyMail.com can confirm. Abdahakim Osman is the first person to go on the record to speak of how Omar said she wanted to get her brother papers so he could stay in the United States. It's been long rumored that Omar and Ahmed Elmi are siblings, but because of a lack of paperwork in war-torn Somalia, proof has never been uncovered. Osman said she needed to get papers for her brother to go to school. We all thought she was just getting papers to allow him to stay in the country. Omar was married to her second husband, Elmi, in 2009 by a Christian minister, although she's Muslim. She was first married to Ahmed Hirsi in 2002 in a Muslim ceremony before they split in 2008, but she later had another child with Hirsi while legally wed to Elmi. Osman said when Hirsi and Ilhan got married, a lot of people were invited. It was a big Islamic wedding, uniting two large clans in the community. He added when she married Elmi, no one even knew about it. No one knew there had been a wedding until the media turned up the certificate years later. So here's a picture of Ilhan Omar and her first husband, who she's had 3 children with. And here's a picture of Elmi, who is alleged to be her brother and also her second husband. So there's lots of social media posts that have been archived and whatnot. Here in the late 2000s, Elmi, pictured here, appeared in Minneapolis, said Osman. People began noticing that Ilhan and Hirsi were often with a very effeminate young guy. He's very feminine in the way he dressed. He would wear light lipstick and pink clothes and very short shorts in the summer. People started whispering about him. Hirsi said, Ilhan told me it was Ilhan's brother. So Osman said when Hirsi and Ilhan got married, a lot of people were invited. It was a big Islamic wedding, uniting 2 large clans in the Minneapolis community. I'd say there were about 100 to 150 people there. But, he said, when she married Elmi, no one even knew about it. And so there's Ilhan on the left, and that is Elmi there on the right. Here's a picture with her first husband, Hirsi, who she's had 3 children with. And it goes on. Here's another picture of Elmi on the right. You can see that he's very effeminate looking. Marriage certificates. Here is the pastor with her husband. So she is the Christian minister that performed this ceremony. They have since said that they will not talk to the press or anyone about this subject at all. And there's lots more information in this. Here's more pictures of Elmi after he moved back to England. There are other media talking about this, lots of media. Washington Examiner did a story yesterday as well. Ilhan Omar accused of marrying brother by old friend. And in it, they quote the Daily Mail article. That's what a lot of the media does. One media company will report on something, everyone else will just copy-paste it into their own story to get the clicks. That's pretty standard. Ilhan Omar did respond. Here's the New York Post. Ilhan Omar blasts fake news after story claims she married her brother. Representative Ilhan Omar blasted fake news stories and those trafficking in anti-Muslim smears on Thursday, hours after a report was published claiming that she married her brother. The same people who chastise the progressive movement regularly traffic in anti-Muslim smears and hate speech against me and those I represent, the Minnesota Democrat tweeted. It's almost as if they don't genuinely care about online harassment. Now, I shouldn't have to explain this or make this disclaimer, but I'm going to do it anyway, okay? Smooth. I'm not a right-wing guy. I'm a left-wing guy. I've got long hair. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm a registered Democrat. So just to dismiss anyone that talks about this subject as a hater is not a good defense. You need to address the actual claims. And so far, she hasn't addressed any of the claims. But since this is a fact-checking video, let's see what the fact-checkers have said about this. Now, what I like to do with fact-checking is I like to say what the claim is, be very specific. In this case, the claim is that Ilhan Omar was married to her brother. We will look at the evidence, and then at the end, we will make a determination whether or not that claim is true or unproven. So let's take a look at what the other fact-checkers have said about this case. So here we are at Snopes. We all know Snopes is garbage. I've done many videos on this terrible, terrible fact-checking site, but let's just see what they say. Did U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar marry her brother? Unproven. Okay. And the claim that they're saying is Ilhan Omar married her brother to help him immigrate to the U.S. And I think that that is what the claim that is being made by many, many people. When we go through, they do look at some evidence, but that's it. They don't look at all of the evidence. They take a few things that are cherry-picked. They say, well, we're not sure about that, and so overall, we can't render a judgment on that. New York Times took a look at this last summer. This is from Linda Chio. Now, I've made a video about Linda Chio. Her fact-checking, very, very, very biased, okay? Not to be trusted at all, and I believe I've made a video proving that. And so far, she's never retracted the things that I proved that were not true. So that's what I think about her. But in the same case, the New York Times says that there's not enough evidence. We don't know what to do. Okay? Looking at PolitiFact, did Ilhan Omar marry her brother? Her hometown newspaper investigated and told us what they found. Now, this is interesting because PolitiFact doesn't make a judgment in this article. They do talk about the evidence in it and that it was conducted by the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, which is not a right-wing paper at all. But they go through, look at more of the evidence here in 2002. Omar, then 19, religiously married Hirsi, but not legally. They had 2 children. They split in 2008. They got a religious divorce. The following year, she married Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi, both religiously and legally. Little is known about him. Omar has referred to him as a British citizen, and that's it. And they went to school together at North Dakota State. 2011, they got divorced religiously, but remained married legally. She reconciled with her first husband. They had another kid together. And in 2017, she legally divorced Elmi. Now, what has been interesting about this is there were a lot of discrepancies in her taxes where she claimed that one guy was her husband, but it wasn't. It was the other guy. And it was these discrepancies that got people to start looking into this. Now, for the record, it was not right-wing journalists that started this. This entire rumor started actually on Somali Spot, which is a Somali website, and they talked about Omar's involvement in marriage and immigration fraud. So this originally came from a Somali message board, and we can scroll through and look at a lot of the comments that were posted there at the time. And yeah, this is way before anyone in the mainstream media or the right-wing media was investigating this at all. So that's where it started, was within the Somali community. Now, what I found interesting about looking at the evidence is that almost all the evidence of these connections, these family connections, are from Ilhan Omar's personal Twitter and Instagram account and the social media of her family members. So this was not stuff that was put out by anyone else. This was things that she posted herself. In fact, here's a story where she deleted a tweet that strongly suggested her husband is her brother. Now, in this tweet, which has been archived in the Wayback Machine, which is used in courts as being good evidence, from 2013, she had a post, "Happy Father's Day to my Abo Narur Saeed. I am forever grateful to Allah for giving me the best father." So it is her own tweet that has named Nur Saeed as her father, not anyone else. This is from her own account. Now, if I were to go through all of the evidence, this video would be 2 hours long. I don't want to make that documentary. I will leave a link to these stories in the description. You can check them out for yourself, but I'm just going to briefly go over some of the evidence. Now, the most research that I've seen done on this subject is on Alpha News by David Steinberg in an article called "Tying Up Loose Ends in the Curious Case." Now, I am by no means co-signing everything that he has ever done. I don't know what else he has done. If he turns out to be a terrible person in other parts of his life, I know nothing about that. All I know is this particular story that he's done, I went through and verified everything that I could that was listed in the story, and I didn't find one thing in this that was even slightly deceitful at all. Okay? Everything that I saw in this story, I verified myself as being factual. But just some of the highlights, if we go through this story, he talks about pre-asylum, asylum, marriage, college, perjury, and fraud. He puts it into little graphs. He talks about all the people that are involved, what their names were prior to becoming refugees in the United States, seeking asylum, talks about who the family is, and goes through their own social media posts where someone who is his sister also names Nur Saeed as her father. Through more social media, we'll see that Layla Elmi is Layla Silmi, and that her marriage certificate, these are all public records, lists Nur Saeed as her father. So they've both listed this person as their father. That is Ilhan Omar's sister living in the UK. Her sister in the UK was also the guardian of who ended up being Ilhan Omar's second husband. We can go through more linked things. This is from Ilhan Omar's old Instagram before it was renamed. The original account was Hameey. That account has been updated to be what it is today, but that was the original name of the account. We have pictures of Ilhan Omar, her sister Layla, and their father, Nur Saeed, on a trip in Kenya. Here's another picture from Instagram, Ilhan Omar's personal account, where she says, "I heart my sisters." And one of those sisters lives in the UK that was the guardian to her second husband. Okay, we go through. Here's pictures of her second husband. This is 2015, I believe, on a trip after she says that she's had no contact with him, but clearly he's in the pictures there on social media. There's overwhelming evidence laid out here that they are definitely related, that is her brother. Perhaps it is her half-brother. And that might be a way that she can get around saying, that's not my brother. Kind of like Bill Clinton did when he said, I did not have sexual relations, because he defined what he had with Lewinsky as not being sexual relations. It's a sneaky way of avoiding perjuring yourself. And so in this article, he lays it all out there, and he talks about what is verified. I have gone through and verified this for myself, but he says we have verified US marriage records, address records, timestamp, traceable, archived, online communications, background check confirmations of social security numbers and birth dates, archived court documents, photos that can be examined, the 2019 Minnesota Campaign Finance and Public Disclosure Board investigation, 3 years of evidence, perjury evidence. Representative Omar has refused all inquiries, and she hasn't addressed a single allegation that has taken place. States that Omar releases carefully worded Clintonian statements that denigrate those seeking answers from her as racists, yet she's repeatedly refused to answer questions or issue anything other than PR statements. Now, what do you do when you don't have a smoking gun, right? When someone just refuses to admit something? You have to look at all the evidence. I have looked at the evidence, and it is my conclusion, and I'm going to be very specific in what I say here, that Ilhan Omar was married to someone with the same name as her brother. She was married to someone with the same birth date as her brother, and she was married to someone who had the same father as herself. That's what I'm willing to say based on the evidence. If I were on a jury, that is how I would vote. Am I 100% certain? No, but I will take bets from anyone on this topic. That's the conclusion that I draw, and I guess I'll let the chips fall where they may for putting out something as controversial as this. But let me know what your thoughts about this are in the comments. Have an awesome weekend. Peace.